Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the webinar today. As we look to welcome everyone into the call today, let's give a bit of an overview for the event. So today we're going to be talking about influencer strategies for an equity crowdfunding campaign. We've got two fantastic guests with us, Chris Brown from Stay Wyld Organics, as well as Andrea Helleman, founder of Maven Business and Brand Development. So we'll have them each introduce themselves shortly. And for myself, I'm Trieste Redding, the head of campaigns and marketing at FrontFundr. So thank you very much for everyone who's joining today. Although this is an event focused on influencer strategies, we are going to be discussing the Stay Wyld campaign, which is still ongoing, which is very exciting for those who are interested in investing as well. So just as we look to kick things off, just a quick forward-looking statement disclosure that we want to run through. This presentation may contain forward-looking information. There can be no assurance that forward-looking information will prove to be accurate, as actual results and future events could differ materially from those anticipated in such statements. So accordingly, viewers should not place undue reliance on forward-looking information. But as we get into the exciting stuff for today, would love to have both Chris and Andrea introduce themselves and their business. So Chris, we'll kick it off with you.
Okay, thanks very much for the intro and this opportunity. I'm Chris Brown, founder of Stay Wyld Organics in Pemberton, British Columbia. We started a functional mushroom company a few years ago, and we decided we wanted to grow our own mushrooms in BC here instead of outsourcing it from somewhere else. And we built this company from the ground up, and we've had a lot of success in the last couple of years. We're really excited to be on this platform with FrontFundr. And we're really excited to be able to communicate with our investors and other companies who are interested in raising money through FrontFundr.
Appreciate that very much, Chris. We're excited to have you as a company on the platform, but also joining us for the event today. So thank you very much. And Andrea, perhaps you could introduce us to you and your business as well.
Yeah, so my name's Andrea Helleman. I live in Squamish, BC, and I largely work with small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I guess a lot of my work is more story-based, and doing a lot of like the visual marketing and creative for a lot of different companies. So I work alongside Stay Wyld, working on their social platforms, and then it kind of just dips into, I would say one of my greatest strengths would be like my resourcefulness. So within that, everything becomes quite fluid. So we talk everything from like packaging to like putting this campaign together to Instagram posts.
That's amazing. Well, really excited to have both of your insights today. I know you bring different perspectives, Chris, with yourself being the issuer, and Andrea, you really working odds, an agency on the creative aspects of the campaign. So very excited to be chatting with you both. For those who are listening, quick agenda for today. We're going to walk quickly through an introduction to the Stay Wyld campaign, what some of their raised objectives were and how the campaign's been performing. And then we'll go through a panel discussion with some key questions related to influencer collaborations, as well as to what goes into a successful equity crowdfunding campaign. Then we'll touch on quickly just influencers and compliance, what capital raisers should know about that, as well as we'll finish off the session with some questions. So if you do have questions as a capital raiser about, putting together a campaign on FrontFundr, now's your chance to ask. Also, if you're an investor interested in asking Stay Wyld a few questions as well, this is a great opportunity and platform to do that also. So now as we turn things back to Chris, would love to get a bit of an overview of the Stay Wyld campaign and some of your objectives and the results that you've seen so far.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Yeah, we were looking to produce some new products, to launch some new products. We've been working on formulations for some new gummy products for some time now, as well as some new drink products. And we also had a construction project that we had started and we wanted to complete, and that was for the licensed portion of our facility for a Health Canada license, dealer's license. So we were, to be honest, we were struggling a bit in the capital market, the private capital market. It's becoming tougher these days to raise capital for a private company. And FrontFundr reached out to us at a convenient time, actually, and after several discussions, we decided that this was the right fit, crowdfunding. I actually didn't know much about crowdfunding and how it worked prior to our meetings with FrontFundr. And it just seemed like the perfect fit for us to be able to basically include our consumers, our followers, and invite them to become co-owners. And for a fairly nominal investment, our co-owners can invest for as little as $500, which makes it more affordable and more attainable to many people. It also gave us an opportunity to reach out to people to come on as co-owner that may not be an accredited investor. And not everyone's an accredited investor, so that definitely makes it more difficult. And prior to this crowdfunding, we were only raising capital with accredited investors and had quite a high minimum investment, actually. So this created a wonderful opportunity for us to not only raise capital for the new products we wanted to launch, and also to finish the construction of our licensed facility, portion of the facility, but also bring on some new investors, some people that really believe in our products and would love to be a part of what we're doing, a part of this journey with us. So it's been great for that. Also, one more thing that it gave us an opportunity for is if we go forward with selling our shares on the public market in the future, there's a minimum, depending on which exchange you go on, a minimum number of public investors you need, a requirement before you go public. So we've attained that. We've reached those numbers as well. So it's also beneficial in that sense.
I'll appreciate the
So it's been
overview
great.
there, Chris. You touched on a lot of fantastic points. I know we typically call equity crowdfunding community capital for the fact that you can raise from your community. And you highlighted a great point there. This is obviously open to everyone, not just accredited or high net worth individuals. And I think the numbers for that over the years is that, previously these opportunities were exclusive to like 4% of the Canadian population. So by being able to raise capital through equity crowdfunding, you're opening up to everyone. You're, a business that has a community, has built a community, wants to nurture a community. And so this can definitely be a great avenue to do so by inviting those individuals as co-owners. And I think the numbers in your raise speak for themselves. You've had an excellent campaign over, now we're at 367 shareholders, investors in the company, co-owners in the business. So that's amazing, and really happy to kind of see the success that you've had and how important, community is to the business moving forward.
Andrea, would you like to contribute to that conversation?
I don't think so. I think yeah, I love questions. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, how about Andrea? We get you featured in the first question of the panel discussion here. So first thing I wanted to touch on is really what makes a successful equity crowdfunding campaign. Obviously, Stay Wyld has done a fantastic job. You've raised a lot of capital. You've got now a lot of new shareholders and co-owners, as we just mentioned. So Andrea, maybe to you first, what are your thoughts on having ran this campaign? What really kind of drove success and what led to, the results that you're seeing?
Well, I think one of the most interesting things I have noticed from doing now to like our final crowd fundraising is ending tomorrow, and just like seeing the shift, because in the first raise we were definitely more of like a startup, and we were kind of telling people what we were going to be doing. And then in the second one, or during the course of like the second one going on, like people actually being able to see like what has been happened. And I feel like that just like opens up their minds to like even more possibility. I think initially becoming comfortable with like putting ourselves out there to invite more people into the world of Stay Wyld, I think we really relied on our perks, like to really like sweeten the deal, to kind of make it almost like if you're already interested in our company, it just made it like easier to invest. But I think as we keep like moving through everything and then seeing like the types of investors kind of like shift. And so, yeah, I think the strategy in this startup phase was definitely having a lot of like perks to make it like an easy sale. And then as the company kind of continues to grow, then having like the numbers and sort of like that trajectory to kind of fall. So I feel like every new raise, like the company grows alongside it, which because of FrontFundr, we're able to grow so much faster or like gain so much more traction, I guess. Yeah.
That's great. And for some additional context for those who are listening, when you are raising capital under the crowdfunding exemption, you have the ability to do so over a 12-month period and up to $1.5 million. But you do have to conduct a close every 90 days. So when we're talking about kind of first versus second campaign here, Stay Wyld had an initial 90 days and opted to extend and continue raising, conduct a close on the first round and continue raising for another 90 days, which the round is just wrapping up tomorrow as well, which is very exciting. So Chris, now turning it over to you. I know you've got some great points as well on, what you've kind of learned from the experience. So from your perspective, what makes a successful equity crowdfunding campaign?
I'll start by adding to what Andrea said about the perks, and and part of the idea of the perks was to attract investors, but the other part of it was we want our investors to be taking our products. We want them to experience the benefits from the products as well. So that was part of the perks, and we definitely had some great perks for our investors in this, and it was for both to attract investors, but also to get them taking our supplements. I'd say the most what makes a successful crowdfunding campaign is, creating the story, not creating the story necessarily, but being able to tell your story of your company. And that's done through the campaign deck. So Andrea and I worked on the campaign deck for weeks and weeks. And I'm going to say Andrea mostly worked on it. It was her creation. And in that campaign deck, that campaign deck gives you an opportunity to introduce your company, tell the story, tell the investors or potential investors what your plans are, what your future looks like, what your goals are, if you have milestones. So that campaign deck is probably the most important piece of the crowdfunding. At least when people land on that page, that's where they learn about who you are, your vision, everything. So that makes it successful for sure. I would say also using your network. Some people have a strong LinkedIn presence. I personally did not going into this. I'm working on it. If I were to do it again, I would probably improve my LinkedIn presence and leverage that a bit more. But where we were strong, I'd say, was with influencer marketing, or we call them our tribe members. So they're part of our tribe, the Wyld tribe. We don't really refer to them as influencers, but if you want to call it influencer marketing, we can. So we really relied on our tribe to help spread the word, and we were able to gain a lot of traction with those tribe members, the collaborators, and that definitely contributed to a successful campaign.
That's great. But go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, I was just going to say another point we didn't really touch on early on in our messaging was presenting sort of like the unique opportunity that FrontFundr is able to create by allowing people at a minimum of $500. So you're kind of like educating people about investments at the same time. So I think that was a big part of like our early messaging, and it also like instilled a lot more confidence, I think, with people with like investing and going through the platform. And for us, even just being able to say that we have been like heavily vetted, and like, what is the percentage I think you'd mentioned of companies?
Yeah, typically less than 10% that actually make it onto the site. So it is, important for investors to note, there is a due diligence process. Businesses do a lot of work to go through that process. We vet them. And for, investors looking at the platform, they are curated opportunities that, have gone through our due diligence process as well.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely appreciate the opportunity that you provided for us.
No, it's amazing. Well, we appreciate you raising with us as well. And I think, building on some of the points there that you guys have discussed, I think for executing a campaign like this, one of the top points of feedback that we typically get is that founders underestimate the time involved. It is a lot of work to raise capital, whether you do it through equity crowdfunding or through traditional means. So one thing that, I always say really leads to a successful campaign is really putting in the time commitment, right? Making sure that you can dedicate the time to this from start to finish and be reaching out to investors and be optimizing your strategy as you go, as well as, putting as much work into the preparation as possible, so that you can make sure you're setting yourselves up for success with the campaign. And I think the other thing I would say is, coming into this genuinely, like this is a form of capital where you are building and nurturing a community, and there's, a very important part of stewardship. You are, stewards of the capital, of the money that these people have chosen to invest. They're entrusting that in the business, and it's important to recognize that and see what important role that community can continue to play into the future for the business as now shareholders and brand ambassadors as well. So I think that's always something really important to consider, and just go into it with that mindset of really, we're not just building a community for that sake, but we need to nurture this and maintain that as we grow as a business, and those can end up being ambassadors that really propel the company into the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
I agree 100% with that.
Now, as we look at the next question here, I know focus of today is really talking about influencers, and you mentioned kind of the wild tribe that you guys have. So I think you're in a great position where you've already got the experience of building more of that influencer community, but a lot of businesses might be starting from square one. So would love to hear from you both, kind of in your perspective, how do you go about identifying and approaching influencers, especially if you might be new to it as a company? So who'd like to take that question first?
Either or.
I'll start.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to go for it? Okay.
Sure, I'll start. So when we're looking for the wild tribe, aka influencers, we're looking for people who live healthy lifestyles, healthy and active lifestyles. So our wild tribe consists of people who are quite active. A lot of professional athletes are in a wild tribe. We happen to be lucky where we're friends with many of them. But we also reached out to them to ask for their help in finding people maybe outside of our circles that are into health and wellness that might be good brand ambassadors for us or Wild Tribe members. So we really started to focus on, okay, who's into health and wellness? And as we went down this path, I found a lot of potential Wild Tribe members that were in the US, and then found out that most of their followers in the US. So we made a decision to focus on Canadian influencers because only Canadians are allowed to invest through crowdfunding in Canada. So we kind of, during this whole process, we figured that out. We didn't know that going into it. So you really want to focus on Canadian influencers who have a strong Canadian following for Canadian crowdfunding. But yeah, anyone who has followers that are into health and wellness, and people, influencers that have followers who engage and they engage back, that's what we were looking for. Andrea, I'm sure you want to add to that.
Well, I would say that the engagement thing is huge because like when you're looking at some sites, you can kind of see when some numbers are inflated versus others when you're looking at how many likes they're like actually getting as well. The main point I wanted to say though, I think another big one, because we had a few influencers. We actually only had one that we made some video reels where people were speaking using their own words. They're people that have already been using the product forever, and just kind of like sharing the message. And we found the influencers that shared the reel and became like co-participants on it, like that traveled so much further, because like another person that didn't do it at all, like nothing ended up happening. So I think you really need like a willingness for people to put you on their page. And not everybody will, but it has to be like somebody that like really aligns. So I feel like through that process, you kind of really do get like the people that like really like believe in your product and like what it does and are really stoked about it. And I love listening to people now. Like a lot of people are saying like our company, and just like seeing that. We actually, from the first raise to the second raise, we kind of added to our wild tribe from an investor. And then when I was interviewing her and she was just talking about food scarcity and like keeping it Canadian and like had so many, right down to she likes to buy things in bulk because there's like less waste. And so our perk of like a year's worth like really like spoke to her. So yeah, I don't know. It's like I felt like we did a good job with the messaging, and I was almost surprised with the way she took it straight to heart and then almost like further. So yeah.
I'm going to add to that. Actually, all of our influencers or Wild Tribe members had been taking our product prior to promoting this raise. We didn't have any influencers that had not taken our product for some time. we've got other influencers that we've added since, but they haven't been on a product for long enough to ask them to promote this. So we wanted it to be genuine.
Yeah, and I think that's why with their language and they're speaking in their own words and it's a video, I
Real.
think like that connection is a lot more than just a picture and, generic copy and paste. Yeah.
Well, that's really, really valuable that, obviously they've tried the product, they love the product themselves, and they can speak to it in your own words. As you said, that comes across just with so much authenticity, which I think is what, other investors are looking for. And I know that's something that we've seen, working with multiple campaigns as they've tried to execute influencer strategies, is to always find those individuals who do align with your values, who do really support the company, love the products. And one thing that I've actually noticed as well is that we've seen greater impact on influencer campaigns where the influencer is really within the space that the business is. So that is to say, not necessarily strictly like a financial influencer, but in your case, like a health and wellness influencer, perhaps a sports influencer, or a fashion influencer. Oftentimes, I find that those, because you're then speaking to an audience with the same interests and passion, can almost come through more authentically than looking strictly at someone who might be a financial influencer. So definitely benefits to each, but I think if you can really zero in on, an industry or sector, that can help quite a bit in the promotions.
And
All
telling them
right.
to smile. Like to relax, I think, like
Yes.
so that
It
it
should be
comes across.
natural, right?
But it's hard to kind of like get people there because everybody's so in their heads. So yeah, giving them like a lot of space, I think. And so we handled a lot of we handled all of the editing, and
Yeah.
I think giving people a lot of space to like try different things, I think was pretty key too.
Absolutely. Now, I think we had a question come through already, kind of about ROI. So would love to hear from you both. How do you measure the success of influencer collaborations? Maybe we can kind of speak to in general versus specific to the campaign as well. So Chris, do you want to kick things off?
Sure, for sure. So we were posting the videos of our influencers. They were as well, and they were adding us as collaborators. And then I would go in and boost the posts, and then I would monitor the analytics every day. And some were obviously more successful than others. So we actually would just focus on the ones that were the most successful. I was boosting all the posts, but not equally. And
Hmm.
as we wind down this race, the final 2 days, I'm really focusing the boosting of the most successful. When I say most successful, it's the most clicks per dollar, basically. Because in Meta, you're allowed to they show you how many clicks you're getting per dollar spent. So that's basically how we structured this, and this is kind of new to us. This we learned during this campaign, to be honest, that this was a successful way, and it was really the final 2 weeks of the first campaign where we started to figure out the success of it.
Yeah, so
Andrea,
I would just say like trying a lot of like different things because I think one of the influencers that I thought would have went really far didn't go for as far, and then one that I didn't think of like actually went way further. So I think it doesn't really know. And because we also advertise on like our other channels, and one of our people came through so loud and clear for this campaign, but then it's not translating in other areas. So it is really like interesting. Yeah, but it's definitely that connection with their own personal story, I think, is what you see huge like returns on, and or like maybe you can't see exactly for the returns, but like the engagement level for sure. Yeah.
no, I think that's great. I know typically for any time you're running an initiative like this, setting the performance metrics in advance that you're looking to, but more importantly, you've got to kind of optimize as you go and be consistently reviewing, performance and what's going on and be able to adapt. So it sounds like you guys had a great strategy there. And we often find that the last 2 weeks of a campaign is really when urgency kicks in because you do have that inevitable closing date looming. So people realize and understand that they need to get their investments completed now. So I think in terms of timing, like just with what you guys were able to achieve on the first campaign was huge. And I can't remember the exact figure, but I think it was something like $150,000 that came through in like the last week and a half or something. So I think, timing of these promotions can have a big impact into their success as well, which is great. And I think you guys definitely experienced that in your raise.
Yeah, well, we had an influencer, like I was looking back and we posted her video with 5 days left, and she was the one that like boosted us so much. So that was on
Yeah,
like the last 5 days. Yeah.
it's amazing. Now, touching a little bit on just kind of paid advertising strategies in general. I know, Chris, you mentioned in the last question there how you were boosting these posts on Meta and how that worked out quite well. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what kind of went into the paid advertising strategy and why you decided to take the route of boosting posts rather than just going through kind of the traditional paid advertising route.
Yeah, for sure. So in the beginning, we have kind of two sides to our business. One is we grow functional mushrooms and produce functional mushroom products
Do you want to
under
explain what functional
under the
mushrooms
brand
are?
Stay Wyld. So under the brand Stay Wyld. And then we've also applied for a dealer's license to produce psilocybin through Health Canada. So that's part of the whole equation here. So in the beginning, when we actually had our agency, our marketing agency, putting ads out there, they were all getting flagged by Meta and Google, and it was because of the mention of psilocybin. Even though we've applied for a license legally through Health Canada, those platforms just have bots, I guess, trolling, and they see, oh, psilocybin flagged. So all of our early on ads just got flagged, and it took a while for us to see that they've been flagged. Our Instagram page also got flagged, and we didn't know it for a while. They weren't showing our content to any new viewers. So we kind of, once we figured this all out, we said, okay, we've got to make some changes here. Let's focus on a different strategy here. And that's when we started working on boosting influencer videos, and that it took us a bit to get there, though, to figure it all out. It was quite frustrating for us too, because we spent some time and money on the early on ad spends, and they just didn't work,
And
which was unique to our situation.
yeah, but I'd say we've even remained a bit fearful of it. Like we still haven't, like we haven't really, even though I think that's like one of like the biggest, most emergent parts of our company, we haven't been like marketing it really hard because of the flagging and everything and how long it took us to get reinstated. So that is the stuff that we will communicate more through like our email marketing and like through channels that we control.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like looking at, are you going through all of the questions?
Yeah, so I know we're running up at the top of the hour here. So if everyone still has some time, we will record the session and make it available. And we'll definitely see if we can get to the rest of the questions today as well. So maybe quickly, why don't we jump along to perhaps kind of determining the right budget for paid advertising, and perhaps you can kind of speak to what the strategy was around the influencer campaign there.
Again, I would say that once we got past all those initial struggles and learnings, we started testing the advertising, testing the waters a bit. And we started with smaller amounts. We kind of went into it with, I would say a smaller budget in the beginning. But once we started to see what was working and how successful it was, we started putting quite a bit more into those successful videos. And then we adjusted our budget as we went, because as we're putting more into those, our investment dollars were increasing so rapidly on the last round. So we kind of adjusted it on the fly, to be honest, with the success of those videos. The other thing that FrontFundr provided for us is that it's given us a lot of brand awareness, which we didn't really account for. We've been approached by lots of companies looking to buy bulk products from us, and it's also provided a lot of new, super cool opportunities for us to grow our business, increase sales, increase B2B, which is business to business for all of you that don't know, also increase direct to consumer D2C. So it's been an amazing opportunity, and we did not realize what that would provide going into this, just the brand awareness that it's provided for us.
Yeah, and I would say that came across because of how much time we spent on our deck. and Chris says it was on me, but it wasn't. Like initially with like that story and putting all that in, and then he layered in, like making sure we're outlining all of our goals, our objectives, and like adding all of the stuff that I'm not interested in, which is all the stuff that FrontFundr does, but like all the technical and the economics and stuff. But yeah, because it's expensive to have a Canadian grown company, and that's something we've like struggled with forever. And so like having that come across and then having like people contact us for bulk sales has been like amazing, because it's actually just improving like the market. So it's like we're not having to fight so much to like prove, the worth of it.
No, that's great. I think touching on kind of the budgets quickly, I know we typically recommend kind of around 5 to 10% of target raise size. Usually depends on how much of a community a company might have, as well as what size of their raise they have. But if you look at platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, they could recommend all the way up to 30% of your target raise budget. So that's what we typically see. But I think as you noted, there can be a lot of added benefits to running a campaign, equity crowdfunding campaign to raise capital. And I feel often, businesses think that they have to choose between raising capital or marketing the business and kind of have priorities shifted between both. But with equity crowdfunding, you can really do them at the same time. You can be focused on raising that capital while also increasing the brand awareness through various marketing initiatives, which can actually impact sales at the end of the day during the campaign as well as post campaign, when you now have all of these shareholders who are brand ambassadors and want to be trying the product, as well as really sharing the product with friends and family as well. So I'm really happy to hear that you guys were able to experience some of those benefits during the campaign, and I'm sure it's something that will benefit the company in the long run as well. But I know we kind of touched on this question already, but I guess Chris, Andrea, to both of you, anything else that you kind of want to say today as we wrap up the panel discussion here?
I think we just touched on. Go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was looking at one of the questions, which I think would probably be a little more towards directed to me. How do you balance creative freedom for influencers while maintaining brand consistency? So I think I kind of mentioned it, but I'll just reinforce what it was. So actually, I did film some of the influencers, but for the influencers that I wasn't able to film, I got them to do a lot of different takes, and then they kind of gave me all their rough cuts, and then I edited it together, got their approval. And then we were like in charge of uploading it. And so we worked together, but we created like the copy and everything to kind of convey both messages. So we kind of made sure both sides were happy. And what I said before too about just giving people like the space so it doesn't feel stressful, because that comes across on camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chris, any final words on your end?
Well, just to answer, I didn't really directly answer your question, the previous question about the budget. We had, we probably came in around 10% of our original goal, our original campaign goal, and that was quite effective.
Okay, no, that's great. I appreciate that. Well, just before we get to full Q&A, just wanted to have this up quickly for some influencer compliance guidelines. I think biggest thing is transparency is key. So whether it's disclosing, ad, sponsored, partner, ambassador, et cetera, a lot of the key platforms will look for that. And some policies on our end is just really, not offering investment advice as the influencers there, and really just speaking to their own experience with the company and why it is that they like the product and or the mission of what the company is doing. And with the promotions, we should be directing people to the campaign page where investors can read the offering document to learn more. And we also shouldn't be making any promises as to a potential ROI on the opportunity. And there are, of course, a lot of risks, so risk disclosure is advisable. But wanted to take a couple minutes to field some questions here. I know we're a little bit over time, so Chris, Andrea, if you have a couple extra minutes, we can dive in to the Q&A here shortly. So I'll just pull this up here and we can take a look at some of them that have come through so far. So will the recording be available? Yes, it will be. We'll send this out to those who attended, were unable to make it, and we'll share it on YouTube after as well. A question that we had come up is, did you guys use influencer outreach platforms, or did you kind of find these influencers organically? I have the sense from you guys it was organically. We've had some campaigns in the past that have tried using platforms, but maybe you can speak to some of the experience quickly.
Now, I think, as we mentioned earlier, we worked with our Wild Tribe members that were currently on board, who have all been taking our products for a long time. And then any new influencers, they came through our existing Wild Tribe members, or it was someone that we wanted to get some products to, and after a month or two of taking those products and they're getting their feedback, we talked about an agreement, and if they wanted to join as a Wild Tribe member and we're excited about the products, then we brought them on. But we did not use any outside influencer marketing companies. We wanted it to be genuine, people who are actually taking the products and feeling the benefits from them.
And like Chris started the company after he had such a great experience with lion's mane, like battling concussion symptoms. And then after lion's mane was kicking in for him, then he started to like look at the market, at like what was out there, and just kind of couldn't find like the company he really wanted to deal with, and then ultimately like started this. So a few of our Wild Tribe has come off of people kind of like seeking the same questions, and like they, like actually like approached us, which is nice. So it's like 100% genuine. And and that story, I think stories is like a big part of this influencer thing. Like you want your influencers to like believe in your company, because then when they do, they all have different reasons too, and being able to communicate that, I think, is huge.
Absolutely. I think storytelling is key to really building any connection or engagement with an audience there. And you guys have been doing it well. I actually, if anyone hasn't listened to it yet, we recorded a podcast episode with Chris talking about his background and his experience and founding of the company, which is just a great opportunity to learn more about his story, which I think is fantastic. So definitely encourage you guys to check that out as well. And I guess one question, like, with regards to building the influencer community in the Wild Tribe, like at what point did you guys decide for the business to start doing that? Like I know you've obviously had this community prior to starting the equity crowdfunding campaign. So when did that become really a key strategy for the company as well?
That's pretty early on. I
Yeah.
would say the earliest days of the company, really, 2020.
I think like we live in a very like a world that, but it's more for like gear and you know what I mean? Like before, like we have a lot of like professional skiers, snowboarders, mountain bikers, all that. So I think we've been like around industries for a long time. So it just seemed organic. But this was but now I'd say like in this space, it's growing more than it used to. Yeah. And I don't even know if I should say it, but for people, for longevity, for like people that have been marketed to in like extreme sports, coming from like sports drinks and like these instant hits, whereas you really want people to be doing it when they're 50, when they're 60, you know what I mean? And so I think that's something that just our community really like aligned with. Yeah, because when you're young, you're just going for it, but then eventually you have to like repair.
For sure. And that's
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's so important for building those long-term relationships with that community. So it's great that messaging is really aligned, and that seems to be a great focus for you guys as well. But go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was just going to state that we've never wanted fake influencers, and by fake, bought influencers, paid influencers that don't really care about the product, and they're just saying what they're saying to make $1. We've never been in that.
Yeah,
never will.
That's really important. And one of the questions we actually had come through was if you look for a specific number of followers with influencers that you work with. And I know even for ourselves in the past, when we're looking at companies who are raising capital in the communities that they might have built online, we have discovered after the fact that, hey, most of their community was likely bots that they had purchased, and we didn't realize that initially. So it's so important to have those genuine and authentic communities there. So how do you guys kind of assess that when you're looking at maybe not even just follower count, but engagement for influencers?
Andrea and I kind of had an agreement that the influencers would have 10,000 followers. However, we've made adjustments to that because an influencer with 10,000 followers may have way more engaged interactions than someone with 500,000 followers, which is more powerful, especially if those people are more interested in health and wellness and actually hearing and listening and having conversations with that influencer. That's a lot more powerful than someone with 500,000 followers that doesn't really engage. It doesn't
Yeah.
speak to their what we're doing.
Yeah. I'm the worst because I don't really look at like the followers. For sure, I'm a little bit in like I can appreciate it or whatever, but I'm also looking at it from like a creative point of view. So I want content too. Like I want
Yeah.
like people are putting out there to kind of like attach to like people's hearts and stuff. Yeah, because one of our people just are like in low thousands, but he had like a lot of engagement and like the things he puts out there are like mouth dropping, you know? So I guess it's like a balance. Yeah. Because
There's
definitely
another Wild Tribe member we have that definitely has less than 10,000, but her videos are very powerful and people connect really well with her, and she's been amazing, and she's been a Wild Tribe member for years. You know who I'm talking about, Andrea.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna mention her name, I guess, because privacy reasons, I guess. But
Well, you can just go on the page and see. Yeah. She's an Olympian and yeah. Or we have a few Olympians on our thing actually. Like
well, there's I was just speaking to somebody that didn't have many followers, but it's been you don't always have to go with a minimum number of followers.
Yeah.
That was my
yeah. Yeah. I think storytelling is huge and like building like that trust for sure. Like seeing that the influencers have built like that trust. Yeah. Especially also like from a no, you go.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, the success of our campaign was, I would say, a lot of it was due to our Wild Tribe and them helping us get the word out. To be honest, they were incremental to the success of this campaign. I greatly appreciate everything they've done to help us, and I want them. They're going to be with us to the end of this journey.
Yeah.
And
And I think that's in line with everything, right? Like Google reviews, like there's a reason why social proof is so effective.
Yeah.
And why people listen to, their brother-in-law versus the doctor more, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like when you have that actual, like real, like connection with people. It's interesting. Yeah.
I think that's a really great point and a really nice kind of a point to touch on there with social proof as well. We use the example a lot, you're walking down the street and looking at a restaurant to eat at, and if it's empty, you generally assume that it might not be that good, even if it is. So there is a huge element to having that social proof and seeking out reviews or feedback from others. And I think that can be so important in the storytelling component and that traction piece for campaigns. And you guys have a very engaged community that was really able to come through for the campaign and participate. And then once you get those initial investors through the door, that just helps kind of amplify and support the raise from there. So it sounds like you guys really did an excellent job with that. And I know we're over on time, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time there. I guess to close things off for today, I know the Stay Wyld campaign is closing tomorrow, so it's a great opportunity for everyone who might be interested in investing to go check out the campaign page at frontfundr.com /Stay Wyld. Chris, anything you'd like to kind of close off with related to the raise or anything else that you might want to touch on today?
Sure. I just want to wrap it up with, I want to thank all the new investors that have come on board and joined us as co-owners. I want to thank FrontFundr for providing this amazing opportunity for us. I want to thank all of our Wild Tribe members for helping get us to this point. And I really want to thank Andrea for all of her hard work. Without Andrea, we wouldn't have been this successful, or without any of this. But yes, specifically Andrea, you've done an amazing job. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. That's nice. The whole thing has been really interesting and like, like it could be a book or a movie, like all of like the feeling and the emotion and some of the times I was like, oh, I feel like this is like, that how we built this. Like it feels we feel very engaged, which I think is exciting to like carry like the investors with us and like really nurture them as we like continue forward. Yeah.
That's incredible.
I do want to thank Chris and his resilience and persistence. He's very persistent. But then also you guys at FrontFundr for like all those reasons we said, like just the credibility, handling like so much of like the legal, doing your due diligence and helping us to feel really good about putting our message out there, knowing that we have enough stuff to support it. And yeah. Thank
Oh,
you.
we appreciate that very much, and thank both of you for obviously, coming to Raise on the platform and for joining us for the session today and taking time out of your day to help other future capital raisers as well. I guess, Andrea, for yourself, for anyone who might be interested in working with the agency, how can they learn more about what it is that you do?
I don't know if Chris would want that to happen.
Stay Wyld has exclusive rights to Andrea moving forward.
Maybe not exclusive, but pretty much, yeah. Just yeah.
She's engaged.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, but it's just my name. I have at andreahelleman.com. Yeah, because I do, even if I'm not working, I love like people's stories and giving solicited advice is way better than unsolicited.
That's great. Well, appreciate you both very much. For anyone who is interested in learning more, you can check out frontfundr.com or email our team at support@frontfundr.com. But yeah, really thank you both so much for today. This is great insights and advice for prospective capital raisers, and I think a great opportunity for those to learn more about your business and the investment opportunities. So as I said, definitely check out the campaign page. And if you haven't already, the podcast episode with Chris is great. So definitely encourage you to check that out as well. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll be in touch soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.